Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I am Afefe with Touch by Tarot. So glad you're here. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, so glad you found me. Please like and subscribe, right? Try to do some good things on this channel. We have a wonderful, wonderful community of spiritual people, developing ourselves, our spirits, and supporting one another. Absolutely. So welcome aboard. You guys, I'm going to do a reading for us on Mercury. One reason is because we are going into Gemini season. Woohoo! And I'm going to do a separate reading for Geminis. I've decided, you all who've been with me, I've said, and I have been doing more astrology in my readings. I am going to begin at least once a month to do a full in-depth reading for that sun sign of that month. And it will apply to most of us in terms of if you have that sign in your sun, moon, or rising. So if you were born under that sign, or if your moon or your rising sign happens to follow. So a lot of people will benefit from that. But I'm going to do an in-depth reading. I'm not at a point yet time management wise where I can do full, full on to all 12 zodiac signs, back to back to back. Not there yet. I will get there though. So I'm going to do that. But when I was thinking about going into Gemini season, so again, that reading's going to come separately, I thought about Mercury because every last one of us born under the sun is impacted by Mercury. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. And so one thing that I learned in my little studies is, check it out, you guys, for your Mercury, it is either always in, when you look at your birth chart, it is always either in your sun sign. So that's how close it is to you. Our sun sign, meaning our personalities, how we view the world, how we show up in the world, right? Mercury's right there on top of us. And if it's not in your sun sign, it says it's either in the sign immediately preceding or following your sun sign. So for instance, I'm a Capricorn. It's saying if it's not, and it happens to be my Mercury does happen to be in my sun sign. But if it weren't, it's saying as a Capricorn, what comes before Capricorn? Sagittarius. What comes after it? Aquarius. So it's saying either I got one of three options. For me as a Capricorn, I'd either my Mercury is going to be in my sun sign or it would have been in Sagittarius or Aquarius. So for the rest of you, hopefully that can help you identify. If you don't already know your birth chart, maybe that'll help you identify where your Mercury lies. All right? Mercury. Important. Rules Gemini, but it is I like to read my little notes because they're just concise, and it's the journalist in me, you guys. Bear with me, right? I'm all about that information. It says, it is about our intelligence, perception, and reason, memory, speaking, and writing. It reflects the way we see, hear, and understand and assimilate information. I did not know this. I learned something new, you guys. It controls the functions of the nerves, the arms, the hands, and the fingers. When we think about communication, even right down to when we're on our phones, or when we're texting, when we're sending emails, when we're writing, right? Mercury, not just what's happening. I've always attributed more to our thought processes and our spoken processes, our verbal cues, but even arms, hands, fingers. Think about that, all right? Rules the voice, and people with strong Mercury influences are successful at public speaking. Stands to reason. Now, going into this long, hot summer that we've been talking about, a lot of people who do the political coverage, thank you so much. I take in so much. I get information, I glean it, especially from a spiritual side. Shout out to Susan Lynn, because she truly is helping me, and I'm sure so many of you, synthesize information, but in a spiritual context, that we can deal with some of these harsh realities that we're living under right now. And going into that summer, speaking, the negative side of Mercury's influence produces a tendency to be critical, sarcastic, argumentative, and sly, lies and deceit. Can any of us talk about and think about the fact that as we proceed into the summer, we're going to be heading into, those midterms in the fall. We're headed into a lot of disinformation and misinformation, no doubt, outright lies and deceit that's going to be, brought to us over and over again across this country, for on our political landscape. So we need to be really in tune with Mercury and recognize when those things are happening so we can decide how we're going to adapt, adjust, and address it. Okay. So I want to go in, you guys. Put on a pink shirt so I can keep it down, work in a spirit of love, right? I'm going to use the Modern Love Tarot. All right. Got those two gorgeous ladies giving each other a little smooch there on the cover. Just got this deck and I love it. And this is actually the first time I'm going to read with it. I've been doing some personal stuff with it to just attune my energy with it. But this is the first time I'm going to read. So I'm going to look at past, present, and future with Mercury and how it is going to impact us, what we should be on the lookout for, how we can pay better attention both to what is being said to us, the information that is being fed to us, and our response to it, what we are giving out, even including those arms and hands and fingers, and how we are disseminating information and distributing information in our personal lives. All right, so Spirit, please show us the collective. The incredible planet Mercury, very, very close to the sun, deeply, all of us impacted by Mercury. No two ways about it. Past, present, and future. How it's gone out, how it's shifting away from us in terms of, its impact, recent impact, where we are now, and certainly what to expect as we go into the summer and approach the elections. A time when we rely on information that we're being given. All right. Important decisions that we have to make based on information we're being given. I'm going to do 3 cards for each, past, present, and future, and then we'll pull more if we need them. Okay. So, in the past, you guys, in the recent past, the way that, what we've been hearing, perhaps our own style of communication, what's been going on around us. It looks like my glasses are glaring a little bit, so I'll take them off for you. The first card that I pulled is the 5 of Cups. Tells you almost everything you need to know just by that beautiful depiction. So, we've been saying this now for the better part of 2 years. It's been rough. I think what this is saying, because it's coming in cups, there are aspects of the recent past where, in terms of our communication, in terms of what we've felt, in terms of what the information that we've been taking in, it's been difficult to accept. Because I think here with cups, there is an expectation that things would get better. That, for instance, I noticed just a mundane personal example. I noticed yesterday on my way to work, gas was $4.55 for regular gas. And I seem to recall recently that there was something in the works about doing something that would take those prices down. Perhaps certainly not back to what they were before recent months, but just, give us a break. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is going up. The last time I filled up, it was like $4.20, still going up. Disappointment around the idea that what we're being told is not what we're seeing. It's not coming through for us yet. And it also could be that on a personal level, the way that we feel comfortable expressing our emotional needs. Because a lot of what we're going through, it's all about, be strong, overcome, don't let things get to us. And it can dampen sometimes our ability to just say, this hurts. I don't like it. I don't like what's going on. I don't like the idea that I cannot wake up in the morning and just know that I'm going to have a joyful day. Sure, I can tell myself that and I can do things to help promote that, but in terms of what is happening around me and what I see in the world, it's bringing me down. We're not getting a whole lot of the feel good stories unless we tell them to one another, right? Or we go in search of them, or we make a deliberate attempt. But in terms of what we are being told overall, what we see, what we're being exposed to, is giving us that feeling, that vibe. That's what's been happening. I get it. Now, good news. Two very powerful cards come together here. Is we have the King of Pentacles. So Mercury has not allowed us to slow down. No matter what the information has been that's coming toward us, no matter what we're being told and whether or not we're trying to sit here and figure out, can I really believe it? Can I trust it? Because I'm tired of being told one thing and then, only to be disappointed and realize down the road it didn't come, it didn't come to pass. But here, King of Pentacles, Mercury has been letting us know somehow, some way, maybe even in our conversations with one another, maybe in your personal circles, whatever you're doing, but there's a sense of hold on, hold the line, stay steady, to continue to produce and do what you can to make sure that your life is stable, to make sure that you are communicating, and remembering too that Mercury influences travel. So maybe you have been using your resources to move about the cabin a little more and build a bigger picture for your life than what we've been exposed to in the past couple of years, where everything was about contract, isolate, stay away, separate from. This could be an indication that in recent months, because of what we've been told, because there's more information about vaccines, because there's more information about the healing mechanisms that are taking place and people taking charge of their own health, their own care, their own well-being, that is turning up here. And third card in this section, the Emperor. So not only has it, and the Emperor, I think, is turning up because Mercury's giving us a little wink. Remember, it was Aries season not too long ago. And this section is looking at the recent past. So I think what Mercury is saying for us, you guys, is in the recent past, in order to get over some of those disappointments that we saw, coming at us in terms of the information we're being given and in terms of some of the dialogue and day-to-day things that we're being exposed to, we stood up. We stood up to it. The Emperor is about taking charge, about having a vision for what needs to occur. This could also be very directly tied to what we're dealing with in our government system. And the idea, because there is this element of authority here. And so the structure of our government, the structure of who and what we deem to have control over our lives, or some measure of control, those entities, those structures, those people, who we just absolutely can't avoid. It is a part of our lives, right? That could be spoken to here. Could even be President Biden, in terms of the leadership and the reassurance that he's been offering, that King of Pentacles. Hey, no matter what it looks like, I know you may be feeling a little disappointed, but there's some reassurance here that's being offered you that we will get through this, that there are steps being taken to keep our economy afloat, to keep us afloat, to make sure that on some level we have some, reasonable assurances that we're going to be okay. And focus on the fact that we're going to be okay. Thank you, Mercury. All right, now, in the present, Mercury happens to be retrograde right now through June 3rd. So that could be a slowing down. That could be miscommunication. That could be, we always hear about those stories, back up your computers and electronics. Don't buy any major electronics, things that have to do with communication during this time. We have death. Ooh, wow. We have death, the world, and the 8 of Pentacles. I get it. We were talking about, I just said slowing down. When we think about death, you all, and especially in terms of Mercury, what we are saying, what we are thinking, how we are processing information around us. What a beautiful depiction, by the way. I'm so glad, because many decks do, you see the skulls and things that can be a little more frightening or disturbing to people. But death in its essence, Scorpio. We just came out of that full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Spirit is beautiful. I love it. So here we are, still dealing with some of that residual energy from that full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Scorpio rules this card, death, in the system of tarot. This is about transformation. This is about rebirth. This is about getting to the hard truths, the core truths of what really matters to us, and what we are being told, and what we can synthesize when we're looking at, because Scorpionic energy is very good at, I hear you, but I also heard what you didn't say, right? We have been doing some of that in the present time, because we just, last weekend was that full moon in Scorpio, or the first of this week, right? So there we have it. We're in that process in terms of Mercury, in terms of information, in terms of how we are thinking about what we're seeing happen around us, how we respond to it. There is a shift that is occurring, and it is all about getting to the heart of the matter. This is not about fluff. We are not in the mood to have conversations around, what's on sale at Target, or buy one, get one. We're not in the mood for those conversations right now. We want to deal with the nuts and bolts of our lives, of our structures, of what we can depend on. The world. I look at this in this instance in a very literal sense. The world around us. We are thinking about Ukraine. We are thinking about, from a global perspective. I'm here in America. Many of you are. But for those, we are conscious of those around us. We understand that, especially, to the extent that COVID could have been any kind of a blessing. And I use that word, carefully, but it did bring us together as a global community to understand one another's suffering, to understand that we were all dealing with the same thing. So there's a shift in our consciousness around world events and around our place, increasingly as having a global society, especially in light of all the polarization that many of us face here in America, where, there is so much division, racial, geographic, class, economic, so on and so on and so on, sexual orientation, any little thing that someone can hone in on and say, this is why we're different. This is why, this is why we're not going to get along, or I have a problem with you. And I think what Spirit is telling us here is there are things that are happening around us that, to the extent, Mercury, the information that we are receiving, the information that we seek, and what we tell one another, what we share, what we're building, our intellectual capacity, in terms of how we build our spirits and use that intellectual capacity to build our spiritual growth and build up one another. Here we have it. It's worldwide, and it is shifting and transforming. And our third card in this section is the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is very much a card about, and an energy above, having done a lot of work already and finally beginning to get the recognition and the rewards for it. Mastering a skill. Are we mastering, in terms of Mercury, are we mastering an element of how we have decided to take in information and disseminate information, and how we have decided to have internal dialogues with ourselves as well as external with those around us? How we are beginning to master and be more in charge, going back to that emperor energy, even how we are being in charge. We feel more in command of what we think, what we know, and how we are able to take in what is around us and synthesize it in a way that makes sense. We are becoming more skillful and demonstrating some mastery around communication. That is extremely important. And we're doing that because we are being given a window to the world. We are being given access to understanding how change, deep, profound change is upon us. We're not going back to 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic. Not happening. You know, where we are now, our options are to go forward. So speaking of which, let's look at the future. We have the Six of Wands, strength, thank you, and the Three of Swords. Okay, let's deal with the tough one first. Three of Swords, you know, look at it, you know, that heart being pierced. There's no way around it. Three of Swords, and I do appreciate from Spirit that it is coming in swords because we are talking about Mercury. We are talking about an air element. We're talking about going into the sign of Gemini right now, ruled by Mercury. This is where we have to put into perspective, going into the future, what has been harmful, and make sure that we are not allowing ourselves to absorb it in a way that it becomes harmful to us. This is definitely a call to anyone who has been affected by someone around you or even yourself around anxiety or depression. Anxiety especially, because when you've dealt with any form of trauma, it can have those lingering effects and those lingering impacts where you begin to anticipate more of what could go wrong versus what could go right. And I think that is what Spirit is saying, and the way that beautifully it came with the Six of Wands. I want you to look at that picture, you know, that depiction, beautiful depiction here, because even though he's in that wheelchair, he's victorious. The Six of Wands is a card of victory, but it's a card of victory that comes with effort despite whatever impediments there may be or obstacles there may be to having that, you know, that clear path to victory. All right. So here, this is a very interesting dynamic because in the future, as we go into the summer, what we're dealing with Mercury, how we think, how we are doing mentally, our mental health, we have to continue to reassure ourselves that no matter what setbacks we've experienced, the setbacks around us, I think about what's happening recently with, I'm not sure when the actual ruling is supposed to be handed down from the Supreme Court as to Roe versus Wade. But when that has certainly been a part of our dialogue recently. When we think about the idea that something is happening to set us back, that something is causing, rightfully so, we're not imagining the causes of, anxiousness or any of that. It's right there in our faces. But here, Spirit is saying, despite something that could impede or hold you back, victory is being offered. And the key to that, the overwhelming key to that is, you guys, strength. Look at that pride of lions there and with the woman. But here's the deal. On a you and me practical level and world global level, this is humanity banding together to say, through these shared experiences, we build our collective strength. We build our collective strength. We build fortitude. And the one thing about when we get the strength in the major arcana, it is about internal strength that then begins to show up in external ways. So thinking about Mercury, this is very much about doing your mantras, doing your meditation, writing your hands. Remember we talked about Mercury with the arms and hands and nerves and fingers. Writing, journaling, telling yourself that despite whatever may be coming at us and how it may look, that there is victory. and that we can help play a part in that victory. But we must build our strength, and we must do it, one by one. If we are sharing a dialogue that says, let's face the truth, let's be honest, we're not going to sugarcoat it, we're not going to pretend that life is as it always was, or that some of our expectations and what we thought it would be like, especially for those of us like me, we're getting mature, and we thought life at this time would be a little bit different than it's turning out. It's still about gathering that strength and that momentum and doing it in a collective fashion. That is beautiful. That is the end goal here. And that is what, in terms of thinking about our speech, about what we tell ourselves, about what we are not allowing to be told to us. We can't always control that, but we can certainly control how we process it and how we respond to it, right? Thank you. Thank you, Spirit. It was beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to pull 2 oracles before we close out. I'm going to go to the messages from the guides first. So, Spirit, to close out, thank you so much for that beautiful message and affirming. I felt it pass. I felt it flip. Please show us Mercury. How to deal with Mercury in this what's going to be a long, hot summer. Release toxic relationships and accept. 2 fell out, so I'm going to give them to you. Release toxic relationships and accept struggles as lessons. Boy, does that ping everything that we just saw and we're just talking about. I think the toxic relationships, very, very clear. This even for me feels like if you feel compelled to pay attention to information that is bringing you anxiety, or that you're not quite ready to process it. If it does more harm than good, then there's some toxicity. And I think because we're dealing with Mercury, this reading was all about Mercury, this would include the information that you are receiving. So if, for instance, we've been talking a little bit about politics today, if, for instance, or social issues in general, not even going to go to, I could not touch the Buffalo shooting, and just take a breath on that one. How does it keep happening? But the toxicity is if we continue to just talk about it, this happened, we have to do something about it. We've got to learn some lessons, and we've got to make a decision about what we are going to do about it. Even if the doing, we feel like one by one, who am I? Who cares about a fefe with Touch by Tarot? What difference? But I believe that even in vocalizing the strength that we have, that we are building, that it will make a difference in the long run. Lessons that we're learning, and release. Toxic relationships could even be the dialogue, the relationship that you have with the self that says, I can't do anything about this. This is beyond me. That's toxic. That can become toxic. Or people around you who are just into the drama and into, not that superficial, not wanting to change, not willing to change, not willing to see, what's right in front of our eyes, our faces, can be toxic. All right, so learn the lessons and let go of those toxic relationships, you guys. Note to self. All right, and our last card before we close out, Spirit. Summer, bask in joy and light. Spirit is real. Our guides are real. Angels are real. And Mother, Father, God is certainly real. Bask in joy and light. Despite whatever information is coming through, seek the good, speak the good, think the good, overturn, transform, that death card, transform. Because everything, it's energy. It's energy. It is a time that we're going through. It is accept the struggles as lessons. It's the lessons that we're learning collectively. And interestingly enough, we are in a situation where many of us are undergoing the same lessons, you know, although unique to us as human beings. We're each unique with our own fingerprints, as it were, but collectively we can do this. Bask in joy. Bask in joy. I really, happy about that. All right. I hope that was helpful. Always leave me your remarks, your comments. If you want to book with me, my books are open starting the first week in June. You can book directly at my website. It's www.trulytouchedbytarot.com. And take care. Pay attention to your words. Let Mercury do his thing and be a wise teacher and counselor as opposed to a fire alarm, as it were. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.